if a person is your best friend in your mind, they're your good friend, generous, beautiful, and one day they treat you horribly, mean, you'd be shocked, you'd be hurt. You'd try to resolve it, but if you had to go to a meeting, you'd leave the meeting, and what would you do? You would probably rationalize their behavior, wouldn't you? If you believe this person is not your good friend and not generous and not beautiful, that are a manipulator, they'll do anything for money, they'll do anything to get what they want, and they don't treat you mean, no, they treat you real nice. What's the first question in your mind? What do they, put it down in your notes, what do they, come on, show me in the chat, that's right, what do they want? So here's what I want you to understand. Your relationships are controlled by identity. The belief you have about people controls your relationship. It isn't actually the relationship. And some of you start out in a relationship with one identity in the beginning of the relationship, and then you go through problems or challenges and you start making up a story. Oh, this person doesn't give a shit. Oh, this person is lazy. Oh, this person just wants it their way. And you tell yourself that story over and over again, then you go, why isn't my relationship working? Because you just built a destructive identity, and now you're not responding to your partner, you're responding to the labels, all those stickies of all those moments you've had that are in the way of the truth, and then it becomes self-fulfilling. You find brown because you're looking for brown, and pretty soon you justify you're the good one, they're not, and the relationship is going to generally be over, or you'll stay together and be miserable. The lesson that I want you to understand is there is no more powerful force than identity. If I asked you, who are you? You're only giving me your positive ones. You know why? Because you're in a positive state of mind. The first lesson is the story, change your life. And to do it, you got to put yourself in the right state each day. So I mentioned it yesterday because I don't know if I'm going to teach it this week or not, but if I don't, go to TonyRobbins.com some point at / priming. And there's that 10-minute process I do every morning to put myself in the right state so my mind is primed to come up with the right story and the right strategies, right? So if you haven't done that, maybe do that for yourself. There's no charge, there's no fees, there's no nothing. It's just my little gift to you. But I do it every day, right? Besides the water and the other things I shared. So here's what I want you to get. Your state's going to affect your identity, but there's an identity beyond state. There's a place inside yourself you can start to identify that is immutable. Like, I know no matter how big the problem is, no matter how overwhelming it feels, no problem is permanent. No pandemic has ever been permanent, and this one isn't either, right? No war is permanent. Nothing is permanent. Life is not permanent. Your soul, that's permanent. Your spirit, whatever it is that we are really made up of. Well, you've been there, if you've ever been there when someone's dead, and I've had, unfortunately, multiple experiences of that. I remember early in my life, just so I'd understand it, I went with this doctor to New York, Sloan Kettering, and I went down to the morgue, and he opened, one at a time, he opened up these bodies, and like, they weighed the same, everything's the same, except nothing's there. You almost think you see movement at first. It's a bizarre thing for the human brain, because we like to hide ourselves in the idea of death. It seems so overwhelming. But death can be a good counselor, reminding you that life is not promised. Tomorrow is not promised. We've all heard that phrase. It's so corny, but it's true. And so maybe it's time to expand your identity, expand it in a way where you go from 68 degrees is your comfort zone to maybe 98 degrees becomes your comfort zone, or 100. And now there's a whole nother world available to you, and you can sustain it. Now, how do you do that? Well, I did it through what I call incantations. Remember I mentioned to you yesterday that when I first was out on my own trying to figure out what the hell to do, and I knew how to feed my mind. So I'd go to the library, that's all I am. There was no internet in those days. But, I went and bought that book, The Magic of Believing by Claude M. Bristol. And that first book, and then I had so many more after that, really taught me how to condition my mind. I put up all these posters around the room, like, this isn't true, but this was my belief back then. I was so depressed, and I was like, is there a reason to live? Because I miss my family and my life, living in this little laundry room, and trying to get myself, it's during Christmas time, so it's the worst time. You're not with your family, and so I'm not yet going back to school where there might be some mental relief, but it's like, am I going to stick around? And then I read this book, and it's like, no, I got to program my mind, and so I put up these posters on the wall in the laundry room. I even wrote on soap, so I'd look into the mirror and see the words while I saw myself, and I wrote, only a loser's depressed. Now, that's not even slightly true, so you know. But I knew somewhere I wasn't a loser, even though I was depressed. So by combining those two, it's like, boom, I'll never go there again. In fact, I never used that word again. I've never felt depressed since that day, and I'll explain this later in the week, because that language is no longer a part of my lexicon. I might feel pissed off or frustrated or stressed or overwhelmed, but I don't get depressed, because when I got depressed, it felt like no reason to be around, and I saw that had to be cut off. Language helps to put us in state, as you're going to learn a little bit more over the next few days. So I want you to get that the way I changed myself was conditioning, and the most powerful way I call incantations. What's an incantation? Well, an affirmation you've already heard of. And write this down. Affirmations without discipline are the beginning of delusion. My teacher, Jim Rohn, taught me that when I was 17. Affirmations without discipline are the beginning of delusion. Oh, I'm happy. You know, getting up and going, I'm happy, I'm happy, I'm happy, I'm happy. And your brain says, read between the lines. You know, I am not happy, right? I don't give a damn all this bullshit saying I'm happy. But what I figured to learn to do, and I didn't even know how I was doing it then. Now I understand the science of it. I started saying, no, I'm going to do incantations. The spelling is the same as incantations. It's just a different emphasis. And what that meant was, I'm not just going to affirm things. I'm going to change my body. I'm going to say things with such intensity out loud over and over again. By saying it and using my body, I'm using the auditory part of the brain, I'm using the kinesthetic, the movement part of the body, and I'm changing my focus all at one time. Changing my body, changing my focus, and changing my words. 3 components that you'll see in a few moments control how you think and feel every moment. But I would go and do these incantations at the top of my lungs. I'd go for a walk initially, and then I got in better shape, and I'd go on a run, and I would do this over and over again. The first experience I ever had of this was I was 17. I was in high school. I became student body president before all hell broke loose, and then that Christmas, my dad got kicked out by my mom. She was a pretty powerful lady. And she chased me out with a knife because she thought I was on his side. He went back to Chicago. He didn't know what happened to me. I was on my own. So now I'm sleeping in this laundry room, and now I'm going to school finally, and I'm trying to figure out what to do, and I got to support myself. So I got a job working as a janitor in the middle of the night, cleaning 2 banks. But it was in a place called San Marino, California, near Pasadena, California, which was, I had to take buses. I didn't have a car. It was 3 buses I had to catch to get there. But I could get there, and the good thing is it wasn't paid by the hour. I was clean the entire banks, all its offices, and I was a good cleaner. I'd done it my whole life, and I worked my ass off, and I could do it in a few hours and get pay that I could never earn on an hourly basis. And then I'd have to take all the buses all the way home. And I get home usually at 2 or 3 in the morning, and then I had to try and fall asleep and get up, 3 hours later, 4 hours later, and get up in time for school. And I was having a hard time waking up on time for school. It got me in trouble there too. But I remember one night specifically that changed my life. I still feel this in my gut from that night when I was 17 years old. I finished cleaning the banks. It's like 2:30 in the morning. I crossed the street to where the little bus stop was, and I waited for the bus. And I waited, and I waited, and I waited. And after about 45 minutes, I started to get really concerned, and it's the middle of the night. And all of a sudden, this car comes by, and a guy rolls down his window and goes, "Hey, buddy, didn't you read the papers? There's a bus strike." It started at midnight that night. So I'm 16 miles from home on the most straight track. Of course, the buses have to go switch where you go and so forth and stop. How am I going to get home? I don't have somebody I can call. I didn't have couldn't call my family. So I decided, and at that point I had a lot of anger in me because of what had happened to my mom. And so sure enough, I decided I was going to run home. Now I'd never run 2.5 miles. And I ran 16 miles, and I did it by doing these incantations. And I started out just going, every day and every way, I'm getting stronger and stronger. Every day and every way, and I would do it. And then I do it in different tones of voice. Every day and every way, I'm getting stronger and stronger. Every day and every way, I'm getting stronger and stronger. Every day and every way, I'm getting stronger and stronger. Every day and every way, I'm getting stronger and stronger. And I would do this, and then I'd switch. I'm getting happier and happier. I'm getting healthier and healthier. And this, I literally hypnotized myself into an identity far beyond anything that I had ever experienced before. And when I got home, I was exhausted, but I had done something. Remember, how do the Chinese know who they are? We know who we are by often what we do. When I run 16 miles and I never run 2.5 or 3, change my identity.